Is coming at the bottom of your screen. It's an ET Now exclusive that we are picking up. My colleague Vijay Ganeshan Iyer is now joining us. It's a story as far as ICICI Bank is concerned. Here is a big exclusive on SEBI investigation with the latest with ICICI Bank MD and CEO Chanda Kochhar. Take it away, Vijay. What's the latest?
Pankaj, what we gathered from our sources is that ICICI board is contemplating to file an consent petition on the adjudication process that market regulator SEBI began on ICICI Bank, and the notices were served to the exchanges on May 25th. Now, why this is important? Because clearly the board somewhere is of the thinking that it's better to complete this process and settle the whole adjudication via the consent plea involving MD and CEO Chanda Kochhar and of course ICICI Bank as an institution, because there is all probability that once the adjudication process in itself begins, the investigation can enlarge, and clearly there will be more issues that perhaps could be raised and more questions being asked during the whole investigations. Having said that, also what we gather is that the board is of the opinion that anyway enough damage has been done, so it's better that to settle the whole issue via consent, because at the end of the day they want to protect the interest of shareholders at large and also particularly institution. We all know ICICI Bank being one of the largest private sector banks in the country. So this is the line of thinking. There have been feelers which have already been given to market regulator SEBI. So clearly under the process or under the law, consent is an option, and what we gather is that ICICI board indeed is exploring that option, and we could very soon see some concrete steps being taken to ensure this adjudication process will be settled via the consent mechanism by ICICI Bank board. So although ICICI Bank is not ready to comment on the query sent by ET Now, ICICI Bank is saying they don't have any comments to offer at this point of time on this particular story. But indeed this would be a big development. Looking at the way things have panned out, the board is of the strong opinion that enough of damage has already taken place, and now also with a lot of new independent directors coming on ICICI board, they say it's better to go for a consent mechanism and settle this case at this point of time.
Yeah, just for the benefit of our viewers, when you say consent plea, what exactly does it entail? How does it change Chanda Kochhar's position in this entire scheme of things?
Chanda Kochhar goes, we all know, even ICICI Bank is on record saying she has gone on leave, although they say this was a pre-planned leave that she takes on a yearly basis, and it has nothing to do with the investigations or the way things have panned out in the last couple of months in ICICI Bank. But we need to understand, we'll have to look at this in two parts. On the whole issue of Chanda Kochhar as an individual, clearly even the beginning of an adjudication process was not a good thing on her own career and her own personal thing. But having said that, from the institution point of view, that is where the board is of the opinion that although Chanda Kochhar individually will look at things as and when she wants, but institution needs to be protected. Enough damage has been done. We all know how the shares have also reacted. Of course, it has recovered after the initial news that came a couple of months back. That is where they want to protect the institution at large. So they are of the opinion that it's better to go for the consent, although there are mixed responses on would Chanda Kochhar come back and take charge of day-to-day activities after this particular leave break that she is gone, or would this be an indefinite leave pending investigations. Although there is no official intimation as yet from ICICI Bank, there are indications that perhaps also the board is of the opinion that she should not take charge of day-to-day operations pending these investigations by market regulator SEBI and also other agencies. So perhaps she must be asked to go on an indefinite leave pending these investigations, although ICICI Bank denies that at this point of time. But clearly the board wants to take charge now, and they are of the opinion that they need to be on a damage control mode. Enough damage has been already been done on ICICI as a brand, and that is where I believe we also have some market experts with us. Sandeep Parekh is joining me at this point of time. Mr. Parekh, a very good morning. Thanks for sparing your time in this breaking news. How do you see this development where we at ET Now are gathering that the board of ICICI Bank is now of the opinion that consent would be a best option to settle the adjudication process started by SEBI. Your first thought?
So I think it will depend on really whether that's a part of the whole or that's the complete story in terms of whether SEBI is looking at other aspects. But if it's related only to the disclosure violation, I think it makes sense for the ICICI board to consent and pay a fine and get over it.
Mr. Parekh, if you could just hold your thought. Also, we are joined by Shailesh Hari Bhakti. Mr. Hari Bhakti, thanks for sparing your time. How do you look at this development? Would ICICI board's decision to opt for a consent mechanism at this point of time will be the best way to ensure that no further damage is done to ICICI Bank as an institution?
I would like to be sure, if, for example, I was on the board, that the facts are absolutely correctly ascertained and that there was indeed a breach of disclosure norms. Because once you go in for a settlement, then even though it is not an admission of guilt, there is a certain degree of onus which sticks to the board. And so I would be extremely careful before I would go in for a consent and pay a fine, because this stays on the record. You know, it's not something that once the fine is given, you're scot-free. Therefore, in terms of your question about the reputation of ICICI, if indeed there was a technical breach of disclosure and if that is to be settled, then I would certainly be for it. But if there was actually no need for disclosure, I would still want to contest it.
Mr. Hari Bhakti, if I could ask you from the corporate governance perspective, we all know how things have panned out in the last 1.5 months or 2 months after initially CBI launched the PE and of course SEBI got into the action subsequently, so on and so forth. How do you see, although ICICI Bank is on record saying Chanda Kochhar will join back and take care of the day-to-day operations, is it a better option for the ICICI board to ensure that Chanda Kochhar goes on indefinite leave pending these investigations, and clearly the atmosphere that has been created in the last couple of months, that would be the best kind of perhaps corporate governance that the board could put forth at this point of time, because anyway enough controversies and damages have happened?
Well, I think a lot of pressure has come from the system to make sure that an independent investigation is actually put in place. And I don't know how long it might take. So maybe this question which you're asking may not be necessary to answer at all. If the investigation is instituted and completed before Chanda returns from a leave, then there is no issue. But if there is a residual portion of it which is still left to be done, then depending on the preliminary findings, the board, I'm sure, will take the appropriate call and go with it.
Sandeep Parekh, if I could get you in at this point of time, quickly, if you could also look this particular aspect or the move from ICICI board, is the thinking also it's better to settle for a consent, because if you also go for adjudication, there is perhaps a risk of market regulator SEBI enlarging the whole scope of investigations and some other issues being coming out or being raised, and that's where the board sees perhaps consent is the best way option, because also adjudication in itself could take its own time. Sandeep?
Yes. No, so I see the concept of enlargement is kind of going to exist in any case, even if they settle this specific case, because it seems to be a pretty limited case of disclosure violation. So they can always get into other aspects and issue a second show cause notice. So it's consenting. This case does not give them immunity from all future cases. Pretty much consent is the best way forward to settle this specific show cause notice and this allegation. But again, as I said, this is not a kind of carte blanche or an immunity for lifetime for or allegations surrounding this issue. So, but given the facts of, as I said, this specific allegation, a consent process would be the best. suited, because then it comes with substantially less stigma compared to finding of fault, which is possible, and if it goes through the entire process of hearing.
Mr. Parekh and Mr. Shailesh Haribhakti, thanks a lot for sparing your time on this breaking news at ET Now. So, Pankaj, clearly you see the general consensus is that consent perhaps is the best way, and that is what we also are gathering, that ICICI board is contemplating. Feelers have been sent to market regulator SEBI, and very soon we could see this particular consent petition taking a concrete form and thereby being submitted to market regulator SEBI to end this adjudication process on MD and CEO Chanda Kochhar and of course ICICI Bank.
Vijay, for those exclusive details, that was some perspective and the latest coming in as far as ICICI Bank is concerned and what's happening with the CEO over there.